Here. I want to do some more on the theme in praise of the American spirit. And I want to start today with what some people might seem a peculiar idea, but I think once I get into it, you'll understand exactly what I'm talking about. And the quote that I use for the title of this particular piece is called "We Have Met the Enemy, and He Is Us." Now, this was done by a cartoonist by the name of Walt Kelly. He put it in the mouth of his character Pogo in 1970, and it became very popular piece of art. You can get on the internet and you can find hundreds and hundreds of different ways that this was expressed at the time. Of course, in 1970 we stood in a very peculiar place in the world in the sense of what America was up to. We had 500,000 men fighting in Vietnam. We had a new president in 1968, Richard Nixon. He would eventually violate international law in conjunction with Henry Kissinger and bomb Cambodia. Clearly a war crime for which no one was ever prosecuted. Subsequent to that, the Nixon White House got very paranoid because of the huge opposition to the war that was marching around the country, just absolutely refusing to consent. And they, out of their paranoia, they authorized a break-in of the Democratic headquarters. In the Watergate apartment building, or office building, apartment building, whatever it was. And this, of course, led to the madness that ensued in the investigations to the president and his eventual resignation from office, and the rising up of Gerald Ford as president, who then immediately, and to the disappointment of a great number of people, pardoned Nixon, although many of Nixon's people that worked for him went to prison for the relevant crimes that were committed. Now, for young people who might be watching this, this is an extraordinary period in American history. The government got out of control. It was at war with the people. The people were at war with the government. And Walt Kelly, as a cartoonist in 1970, and I don't just mean, kind of flaky guy, I can do a nice little speech about how the deepest philosophers and thinkers in the 20th century in America have been cartoonists and stand-up comics. George Carlin is a good example. Of course, there are people that don't like what these people say, what the cartoonists say. And of course, this is what I'm talking about. America has been, somewhat from the beginning, in the nasty way that democracies can be, at war with itself. And what Walt Kelly put in the speech of his character Pogo, "We have met the enemy and he is us," is a very important, necessary thing to understand about the spirit of America and its manifestations in the political. Now, the spirit of America doesn't just manifest in the political, but in the political it manifests as unending, escalating conflict. Okay? For a long time, people thought that America would have enemies abroad. But now the enemies are inside the gates. We are our own worst enemies. We have leaders that promote hate and dissension and division. For their own advantage. At the time that I'm doing this, we just had over the last 10 days the terrible and horrible thing that happened with the woman Shirley Sherrod, who worked for the Agricultural Department, and a conservative blogger of little real skill and not much wisdom for sure, took some video material he had of her giving a speech, highly edited, promoted it on his blog site, and all kinds of people in the government fell over themselves trying to be the first people to disavow this woman based on what came from a website that was known for not telling the truth. We have met the enemy, and he is us. We are eating each other. And the nature of the present-day crisis that we are going through is contained in that idea. We are at war with each other. We are our own worst enemies. And this is a crisis of maturation for the American spirit, for the American soul, for the American people, for the nation of America, for everything that's related to America. It's a crisis of the maturation of the American spirit. We could go out of existence. That's how dangerous it is. There are people who would like nothing more than to turn America into a third world country. And by this I mean be able to be totally dominated from the outside by transnational corporations who basically would own the government. And of course, I'm not doing a political liberal argument. I'm just saying these are facts, and the fact that there's a political party that wants to be in denial of these facts and gives people all kinds of reasons not to believe them is just part of the war that's going on for the soul and spirit of America among Americans. We are at war with ourselves. We have met the enemy, and he is us. America has a great deal of potential in the world. And it is precisely because of this potential that we have to go through this crisis of maturation. We have to transcend, rise above, I don't care how you put it, stand outside, get over living into the excessive nature of being at war with ourselves. Yes, as a democracy, there will be conflict. But at a certain point, people have to get it together and realize that tearing the country apart in the name of saving the country is an insanity. And it doesn't make any difference whether you're a conservative or a liberal or a Republican or a Democrat or whatever, if that thought enters your mind and if you approach the situation in America that by increasing divisiveness you are doing something good for America, you are seriously in need of a 12-step group, if not just being shunned totally. You are not an American. If there is any activity which is un-American, it's that.